The main thing that segregation means to me is extreme loneliness and boredom. That's the main thing, loneliness. You know, don't care how tough you are. I don't care how badass you are. You can Bruce Lee it up all day long. It gets to you, and it hurts like hell.
I think people would be interested about like your situation with the Fifth Amendment and stuff like that. So basically, like, kind of describe that, like, because you used to thought that you might have to spend the rest of your life in prison, and so there's that kind of hope and stuff like that. So can you kind of like describe how that happened?
Yeah, you want to record this or?
Yeah, I actually started just recording it.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine. But first of all, the situation is this. Well, there's actually two things now. The original is under the Fifth Amendment. If you're charged with a capital crime, unless you're in the military during the time of war, they have to take you in front of a grand jury. The situation in my case, the Commonwealth attorney, Dan Boughton, never took me in front of a grand jury. He just had the sheriff sign off on the true bill, which is the case of intrinsic fraud. They basically filed a false government document saying that they followed the law when they did not follow the law. And they filed it with the courts, thus violating my Fifth Amendment.
And this is a big question. Do you have remorse for the crime that you committed?
Without question. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I didn't just take someone's life, I destroyed someone's family.
Yeah, and have you ever had contact with him since then, like a victim advocacy?
No, I've never spoken to him or anything of that nature.
What would you like to do when you get out?
Well, there's a lot I want to do. I will take what I'm currently doing, the podcast and whatnot. I will take that further, expand that. For myself, you know, as far as making a living and whatnot, I want to go into acting. Definitely prison reform, because what they're doing, especially here in Virginia, you know, stuff I see from other states, there's no reform, there's no rehabilitation unless we take it upon ourselves to do it for ourselves. Other than that, you're just simply warehousing us. You know, so I'm going to do everything I can to bring that to, you know, the public's attention and the government's attention. You know, because changes have to be made. Otherwise, just simply kill us. Once we're found guilty, take us to the hospital, put us asleep, and take us out.
And is that so? Would you say that like a life sentence is the same as a death sentence?
It's cruel. To me, look, the death penalty. Like, I am opposed to the death penalty to the extent that it does not keep someone from committing a horrendous crime. You know, it's not effective. But at the end of the day, you know, if you give a person a life sentence and we're going to die, we're going to live however long in here under the circumstances that we're currently living, I would have much rather have been given a death penalty and killed than to live like this day in and day out.
So it's like a living hell, basically.
Yeah, it's pointless. That's the whole whole part about it is fucking useless. You know, I could understand if they had genuine programs, if they had people that genuinely cared about, teaching someone how to overcome their childhood difficulties. If they had someone that, in here teaching people how to control their anger and how to think properly and do things differently. And you had hope of, okay, once I master these things, once I learn these things, and I'm given enough time to actually put it into practice, then I get to go home and I get to actually live my life and be a part of my family's lives and do something different to have a genuine shot. Right now, there's a reason why the recidivism rate in the U.S. is higher than any other country. By far. Like every other country's recidivism rate is well under 50%. Ours is 90% in America. So it's what the majority of people are doing in here is, it's a living nightmare. You do the same thing over and over and over again. How are these guys supposed to learn? You got dudes in here that are 80 years old, that they still have the same anger issues, the same impatience, the same childishness that they had when they came into prison 60, 70 years ago. Like, that's all they do is they wake up and they do the same thing every single day. There's nothing in here to teach. There's nothing in here to educate. Like, if I could get these programs, the books to these programs, and send it to you, and you read it, you would be like, what a joke. Like, kindergartners could do these programs. It's not even designed for children. Like, it's designed to steal money from the federal government, because the federal government gives the states money, millions and billions of dollars a year to run these programs. So they technically have a program. But I can tell you, like, okay, for example, the IM6 closed pod that I was in at Red on the end of the documentary, the one where I was chained to the floor, rolling sporks and all that stuff at the tables, and you see me in the cell and all that stuff. That program was given $30 million a year from the federal government. We never, ever saw any of that money. The only thing they did for us with that money is they gave everybody in that pod a job, just so we could buy a little bit of compensation, so we wouldn't cry, complain, and push paperwork.
How much did you get paid an hour?
I got paid 35 cents an hour.
And how much is, like, a Mountain Dew, like, in commissary usually? Like, an item you would get?
Well, you can't buy sodas up there. But yeah, everything is 3 times what you would pay for it on the street. I made $40 a month. It's actually $42.50 a month. Let's say if I wanted to buy a TV, and at that time I had to buy a TV because mine just blew up. The TVs are $275. You know how much if you bought this? If you could buy that same TV on the street, you would probably pay $15 for it.
Wow, and are there only like 12 channels?
We only get, I think we get like 15 channels now.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same channels we've had for 15 years. Like I don't watch television. Like I have a TV now, but it sits on the shelf and it collects dust.
Can you describe the process of how you just kind of get relaxed and just kind of like tune out everything else and kind of go into, your inner space?
I pace. Sometimes I'll lay there and do it, but most times I pace back and forth in the cell, and I just, I close my eyes and, normally when I do it, I go into fantasy worlds. It's my favorite genre. I start creating a world. I add mountains and rivers and lakes and oceans. I add kingdoms and forests and creatures. And sometimes I go with the tried and true. Sometimes I try to come up with brand new stuff that's never been done before. I think of a character. What I want that character to look like, be like. I take it from there and I add detail, layer after layer after layer. Sometimes, I may go through a whole bunch of stuff in a short period of time. Sometimes I might spend 5 hours on a single sword. And I visualize it in my head, and the more I do it, the more real it becomes. If I could get something where I could just basically record myself and it would transcribe it for me, I'd probably have multiple books published by now. But it's just, I have to write it out by hand, and I'm just such a slow writer.
Yeah, I'm a lot better when it comes to typing and stuff like that as well, but slow writing. And the situation where it landed you in Supermax and stuff like that, how old were you?
When I slit LA's throat, or when I slit the child molester's throat?
Oh, the child molester's throat.
That was 2006.
And did you hear like how did you know he was like a child molester, and how did you know like if he was gonna for sure do this?
Oh well, no. He wasn't. Okay, you've got both incidences smushed together.
Oh, I
The
do.
first incident was L.A. He was the black guy that was known. He had a reputation for raping white guys with a bunch of other black guys. It's not like he was doing it by himself. It was a group of like 8 of them that would all run in on one dude at one time. And then do what they did. I was sitting there I had a tutor job because I was the only one that had a GED at the time. So I was helping other guys, and I was sitting at the table tutoring a guy when him and his buddy, who's supposed to be the Stone Cold Killer, came to sit down at the table, and he asked me, "Hey, what would you do, if someone raped you?" And that's when I told him, "Look, I'm not gonna sit here and say I can't get raped because anybody can get got. But when you're done, take my T-shirt, wipe your dick off, and hit the button on the wall to call the COs to come check in. Because when I get up, I'm slitting your throat. Oh, you ain't gonna do nothing like what? Yeah, whatever, make it away from me. So that's what started it. And then later on, my cellie came and told me that a bunch of the black guys that pulled up on him told him, "Look, man, you got to check in so I can get in the cell with your cellie and rape him." And that's when, the next morning I went out and I slit his throat. That was November 28th of 2000. I believe I was 22. Wait, 90.
Basically, like early 20s.
So, yeah, I was 20 years old at the time. 22. My math sucks, dude. I'm not good with doing this in my head.
Oh, I was in special education for math, so I understand.
Yeah, it's just I'm much better with writing. But so that's what prompted that whole situation. The child molester, he never done anything to me other than the fact that he was sitting there openly telling people that he was a child molester and he was a snitch, and if he saw you doing anything, he was running straight to the lieutenant. So that's why I was like, you know what, I hate this group. I hate these bastards, because I was molested as a child myself. So like, you know what, man, I don't care. I'm never going home. I've got nothing. Because I had no hope. I had nothing at the time. So I just went ahead and slit his throat and beat his ass.
I got you. Okay. So, wow, and sorry to hear that you went through that as a child. I mean, would you say that it's like, I hear this analogy that a child's mind is like a clean sheet of glass, and the smallest thing could break it and ruin its innocence. Would you agree with that? And like, do you still feel like immense pain about it?
Um, no, because I've dealt with it. Um, I've found my closure. With that situation. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. A child trusts everyone. Whether he should or not, like that's just what children do. They're incapable of thinking bad things happen to them until those bad things happen to them. When those bad things happen to them, they're never the same. They will never ever completely heal.
Mm.
That's why I despise child molesters so much because that's something that stays with you no matter what. And every time you hear like anytime you hear somebody says the word choco, it immediately throws me back to that night.
As a child?
Yeah, it's any you go speak to any sexual victim, it doesn't matter. Even a grown woman that was in her 30s before she was raped. If she ever hears the word rape, no matter how innocent it could be, like it could just be on a movie poster, Leo's Vikings rape and plunder. Like she sees that word, hears that word, she's instantly going to be thrown back to what happened to her. It depends on how much she's healed and how much she's overcome it. Depends on how long she stays there. For me, it's just I only stay there for a split second, but I still get thrown back to that night every time I hear that word.
Well, what you said was very powerful. I want to say, wow, a lot of people want to, yeah, and
Well,
jeez.
people try to sugarcoat it and hide from it. You can't.
You have 1 minute remaining.
It's impossible to hide from trauma. The only thing you can do to deal with it is to talk about it, is to hold those conversations with someone you trust, or a stranger, or a therapist. It doesn't matter. Like that's the only way to heal from emotional and mental pain is you have to talk about it. Once you do that, you start finding the power and the control over it to deal with it and to handle it. Until then, you lash out, you have poor impulse control and childish decision making. There's a lot of us in prison because of that. That's all I'm saying. I'll hang up on.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you for your patience, and I'll hear from you in the future. Have a good one, Randy.